What's up, good people? We back at it again. I know I just got off the air. Now I'm back on the air, but me and Game Changer had to get it in when we could. So we about to definitely get this bad boy going. I know I already see him down in the back chat, so we about to get this thing going. You know how I do. Got to play the long intro, give you Negroes some time to make it on in here. Then we about to get it popping. The topic, yeah, I saw it in the title. Why do black men talk about submission so much? And we're going to be talking about this patriarchy thing that black men have been charged up with the crime of wanting patriarchy. Why the hell would we want that? Why the hell would we I don't know, not want to be men? I don't know. But we about to get all that figured out right now, and I talk to my man Game Changer. So after the intro, you know what it is, you know what time it is. Let's get it.
Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Mumia Obsidian Ali. You know who I am. I need no introduction, right? And you're listening to the Grown Man Hour with my man Bernard Riley, heard weekdays right here on YouTube. What do you think about that? How about that? Now let's get back on with the show. Thank you.
Something special happened today. I got green lights all the way, with no big red sign to stop me, no traffic jam delay. See, I was driving over the moon in my big hot air balloon, high into the darkness. I hope I get there soon. There's so many things to do, so many people I need to talk to, and they've all been waiting for me. Well, I gotta make it through. Something special happened today. I got green lights all the way, with no big red sign to stop me, no traffic jam delay. Thank my stars forever be green. You have no idea what it means. No, no. To a man who's always traveling, who's seen the things that I've seen. I don't know what's yet to come. Not sure of anything that I've done really makes that much difference. Well, I hope it has for some. Something special happened today. I got green lights all the way, with no big red had time to stop me. No traffic jam today. Well, I was driving over the moon. In my big hot air balloon. Floating high up in the darkness. I promise that I'll make it to you very soon. Something special happened today.
What's up, good people? Back in the building. I got Game Changer in the building. What's going on, Game Changer? What's up?
Nothing much, Menard. Happy to be here.
Yeah, happy to have you here. I'm going to get right into it because this will be a shorter stream. I'm not going to do 2-3 hours, 2-3 hour shows today. So this will be a shorter one. So we're going to get right into it. Shout out to everybody who already dropped a comment bright and early. Won't even be clicking on everybody. It looked like Ed Unchained. You keep changing that name. I think you booed the show on the way in. I think that's what happened. Jerome Whiteside says, I need a soundtrack. Just Aloe Black. Aloe Black. Just type in Aloe Black. You should be easy to find. It's black with 2 C's. Should be easy to find. But the topic that we got on the table today is why do black men talk about submission so much in the black manosphere? I do view you as the resident expert on that because you spend the most time talking about it. When you talk about the purpose and goal of your channel, dominance or submission of women is pretty much in your mission statement. So yeah, go ahead and talk about that real quick before I just get into the question. Why do black men talk about submission so much?
So basically, what I found is that relationships where the man isn't in the dominant position and the woman is in a submissive position don't really work. In theory, the gender roles could be reversed and a male would be in a submissive position, which is what a lot of women, modern women, thrive for, because modern media tells us that this is the way things could work, this whole Mr. Mom mentality and things like that. However, in practice, what eventually happens is the women get turned off just in general by seeing a man in a subordinate situation and feeling herself in a dominant situation, even though that's what many of them have thrived for their entire life. They come to an impasse to where they're like, oh, you know something? I have everything that I've ever worked for, and now I feel unfulfilled, kind of like Moby Dick. Once they reach that point, then that's when you start getting the divorces, and that's when you start getting the just general breakups, the child support, and things like that. And then they attempt to start again anew and seek for what Kevin Samuels would describe as a high value man, but basically a man that they feel comfortable in a submissive relationship with, or in a relationship in which they are submissive in. So basically, society tells them one thing when their nature tells them to do other things. That confusion leads to.
Wait, hold on. Go say that. Say that last part again.
Society tells them to do one thing, and their nature tells them to do another.
Right.
Which eventually leads them alone. This contradiction leads them alone.
Well, what do you think about that? Because you mentioned Kevin Samuels. It leads them to the point where later in their life they're trying to say, "I need this ideal man that I can submit to," or whatever. But do you honestly believe that even in that situation, that they're even honestly talking about submitting to that man? Or this is the best way that I describe it. They quite often will describe submission as abuse, but then they're saying they will submit to a man who makes enough money. So then the next question that I would put on the table to them, okay, how much money does a man have to make in order for you to accept him abusing you? If you define a submission as abuse, that's the next place that I logically go with that. Do you think that they're even really even talking about submission, or they just basically just saying, "Oh, I want a man with money"? Oh shit, are you saying anything? Uh-oh, you might be having technical issues.
Is
I
this
think
better?
no. Well, you just went like dead air, not saying anything at all. When you said this is better, I could hear you. So hopefully you
Okay.
continue to be heard.
Yeah, I moved closer to the router. But basically, I strongly suspect that they don't actually view submission as abuse. They just use that so they can leverage it for more. Basically, they say, look, this is the most, even though it's something that they naturally want, they present it as this is the most god awful situation you could possibly be in, and if you expect me to be in it, I require $350,000 a year. How they're trying to present it to you. However, it is not the worst case scenario for them. It is the scenario that they naturally want to be in.
Explain that when they naturally want it. Explain that. What makes you think they naturally want it?
Well, it's hard to believe as men that someone would naturally want to be in a subordinate position because we do so much for our own freedom. However, women are not built the same. They were made to be helpmates of men.
Mm-hmm.
And this is just, going by their behavior throughout history. Now, there have been outliers, just like certain people are born a little different, like left-handed or, dwarfed or albino or something like that. And, these women influence the others. However, the natural state of the regular rank and file woman is submission. And what we have when we have the belligerence or the ratchet behavior or the downright defiant behavior is still them submitting, but what they're doing is they're submitting to the higher authority, which is modern culture. So instead of submitting to a mate, their father, their brother, their uncle, their lover, they are submitting to, Birkin or Louis Vuitton or whoever is influencing modern culture as advanced.
Uh-huh. Okay, so you said that they naturally want it. Well, you borged out on that one right there. You were good. Whenever you did, you were sounding solid. Then you just borged out for a quick second.
I didn't say anything.
Oh, okay, cool, perfect. Okay, all right, cool. You said that there are outliers. Women naturally want it, but there are outliers. Just like some people are born left-handed or whatever. Do you think it's possible that Black women, I hate to use the word collective, but as a collective group, could just be a bunch of outliers, or just have a really high concentration or high percentage of outliers, and that's just how they are, and that's just what we got to contend with if we're going to deal with them? Just a potential chance that she may be one of the outliers, but in the case of Black women, that outlier is the norm. You think that's possible?
Well, it is possible, but that they have a higher concentration of outliers. But would I say that there's a reason that the outlier is the norm in the Black community? Absolutely not. And that's simply because our history in this country is unique. And I don't see the behavior from Black women in other countries that would suggest that there's something, within the Black genotype, within the West African genotype, that would make them less submissive. What I have found is here, in particular, the U.S., given how our history, which is similar to a lot of colonial places, but what's a little bit dissimilar is how it's taught to the masses, and I think that has a lot to do with it. People associate submission with slavery. And that's simply because the same acts that a slave master would have a woman do is one that the husband would have a woman do, which is get me a sandwich and, sex on demand and things like that. So it is kind of reasonable for them to make that correlation to it. Also, they will push back on submission the same way that they will push back on the concept of slavery, if they are of such low intelligence that they can't make the distinction between the two. So that is a problem, and that is why it may appear that there's a higher concentration of those type of women in the Black community here. Also, there is a lot of insecurity that goes along with Black American women. One, because they don't, whether they are or they're not, which is irrelevant, even though they're not, but they don't feel as if they are as attractive as other groups of women. So they feel that they need, in order to secure a relationship, they need to be in a dominant position. Dominant meaning that the man is not in a position to leave. Just like when a man is in a dominant role historically, the woman is not in a position to leave. She will find herself, in dire straits if she was to leave the situation. They want that type of power because they feel they need it to secure a relationship, because their femininity, which is worth far less than every other ethnic group of women in this country, they feel that it's not enough to sustain a relationship.
Deep. I know. I actually heard a woman say that she felt comfortable dealing with the guy who was at a disadvantage. She said if he didn't have a car, well, the only time she knew that he was riding around going somewhere is if, she gave him the keys to her car. If he didn't have money, she said that she knew the only time he had money to be out and about spending money is if she gave it to him. She felt like him being at that disadvantage made it to where her deficits, because she for a nicer way to describe it, she didn't feel pretty. She didn't feel like she was worthy. I won't even say she didn't feel like she was worthy. She felt like she was worthy. She just had a really strong insecurity to where she felt like she did have to be in that position in order to have a man, I guess, to be on board, to act right, to more or less damn near submit to her. She wanted to be in the dominant position. So I did. Yeah, I heard. I forgot who it was the first time I heard somebody saying something similar to that. Hell, it might have been you. That probably 2 years ago, I probably heard you say something like that, and I was like, nah, I don't buy that. Until I actually heard a woman say it out of her mouth, and I was like, damn, he might have been right. So that's an interesting thing. W. Alfonso came through with a super chat. Appreciate that. He says, been waiting for this one. Also, I love the intro music. I have to play it even when I come in late. Hey, I appreciate that. Shout out to SKC for making that that nice intro. Shout out to Brother Xavier for doing the voiceover work. Actually, no, the one I played today was one of the ones that, because I had two different intros going on. And so he made a voiceover he made video for both of the voiceovers. So this one I played today was the one with Obsidian. So yeah, shout out to Obsidian and X doing the voiceover work, and shout out to SKC doing the editing on that, and shout out to Aloe Black who does, that's his song. For somebody was asking earlier that something special. No, it's actually called, that song is called Green Lights. So yeah, shout out to everybody who put that together. So Game Changer, you said that, well, you kind of answered it indirectly, but I do want to ask the question very directly. Why do black men talk about submission so goddamn much? What's up with that? Why black men always talking about it so much?
Well, because many black men have come to a realization that that's the only way their relationship would work, while others have they just want it because they have a natural proclivity towards dominance in a relationship. That's pretty much it. Like, listen, on the surface, the reverse scenario that your friend is in, where she gave him the keys to the car, seems like a good idea, because you get the pleasure, sexual, without the effort of having to compete with other groups of men for dominance in their society just to support your family. So you have all of the pleasure with none of the responsibility. On the surface, it seems like a good idea, which is why the boomers tried it. And because it was such a spectacular failure, we realized that the old ways, that grandpapa knew best. And now many of us are trying to reverse it. Like, look, we know the key to making a relationship work. It's just that we have to implement it. Now, a lot of the women still have that insecurity, and it's not going to go away anytime soon. Somebody in the chat room suggested therapy, but the problem is that there really isn't anybody qualified, to do that to them. They have been groomed not to submit. They would have to first submit to the authority of the therapist in order to get the necessary help that they need. And since they won't submit to black men, and another black female therapist is equally messed up in the brain, and white women just don't know what they're talking about, neither do white men, like, hey, that's it, sounds like a you problem. So there really isn't anybody qualified to take on such an endeavor. So they're just kind of like, unfortunately, they have to figure it out themselves.
Yeah, I personally know of an individual who sought out therapy and was lying to the therapist. Like, I'll just throw that out there, and I'll keep that as vague as possible. That they to do therapy, yes, you said it just right. They have to literally they have to submit to the process. They have
Right.
to go in there as an open book, telling the truth, not trying to find a way to be right. And that's a difficult thing. One thing that I did a stream on earlier, I think it was last week, probably at the beginning of last week. It was about Jamila Hill, who she made a comment. She tweeted something, and I think that may have been ground zero of these conversations about black men wanting patriarchy. And when she tweeted that, it kind of blew up. Where her quote, if I remember it correctly, it was, I have increasingly come to find that black men just want better access to patriarchy. They don't actually want to dismantle it, or they don't actually want it dismantled. As much of a mind screw that is, like, what's your general just initial thoughts on that statement?
I can't make sense of it. I mean, unless she's working under the assumption that, or she believes that her audience is working under the assumption that patriarchy in general is bad, and she's shocked that black men are not with them in dismantling it. I don't really have a clue in it. It's like, why would we be with you in dismantling patriarchy?
Well, what a lot of people do, a lot of feminists in particular, they try to define patriarchy as more or less everything that's bad in the world. Rather, we're talking about racism, sexism, homophobia, you name it. Even I read an article, and it even put global warming in there. Everything that's wrong in the world, they try to define it as patriarchy in an attempt to basically say that the opposite of that, I guess, would be matriarchy and feminism, because feminism would ultimately lead to matriarchy. If they define the thing that's opposite of them as everything that's bad in the world, then they're automatically everything that's good in the world. I think that's their Jedi mind trick that they're trying to pull. But I think a lot of where she was coming from is that she actually wants to, she actually views black men as, I suppose, the disenfranchised minority, like right there with women, right there with black women, right there with gay people, right there with everybody who's in the whole little liberal rainbow coalition. We're supposed to be on that with them, marching in order behind them, doing exactly what we're supposed to do. So I think that's where that comment comes from. And there's been a lot of other talk about, a lot of criticism. I should have had the tapes ready to play them, but I know we working on limited time. We're only going to be here an hour today.
Okay.
So I didn't even have.
I set a little extra time aside if you need. Just
What'd
you know.
Say?
I set a little extra time aside if you need.
Okay, no, it's cool. It's cool. No, I planned for an hour. We might go over a little bit, but yeah, I wasn't going to do a long one today. But no, it's been a lot of talk about that, and it's connected to black men voting for Trump and everything, that they're trying to gain access to some other type of power. But I think what's going on, a lot of black men realize the Democratic Party has nothing for them, and they're voting in a more, I guess, patriarchal type of way, and that's bothering a lot of black female liberals, black female feminists, and the criticism of black men has been pretty high. And we're going to see when the election results come out exactly how black men voted in the whole connection with all of that. We're going to see how that plays out. But what do you just think about the general idea of black men being criticized for wanting to be the leaders in the household, for wanting patriarchy?
Well, yeah, the confusion comes from, when black men appear to, at least, or at least in the boomer generation, they either supported or appear to support the agenda of egalitarianism in the household, because they too were probably under the impression that submission, whether it's black over or white over black and male over female, was slavery. So they may have fought that concept with them, and then later realized that that these are two different things. It could be part that, and they're just surprised at this new cultural shift. She should have shifted with everybody, and she probably did. After seeing the spectacular failure that matriarchy has brought, she probably did come to the realization that this doesn't work. However, it's all she got, which goes back to the insecurity factor. But and then there's another thing, and she could be, and I'm not familiar with her body of work, she could be what's a natural outlier. And these are the women who began feminist. Well, I shouldn't even say women. So, once again, I said it before and I'll say it again. Feminists are not women and therefore don't deserve our love or respect. So she could be a natural outlier, meaning that she is a non-woman, but she is, she has the appearance somewhat of it. And I can tell by her manner of speak that she is not and probably never was a reasonably attractive woman. So, that being the case, she's not actually a woman, and she is the source of this outlier behavior. Okay. So when you have an outlier typically in society is somebody who cannot, for whatever reason, a mishap of birth, typically cannot really function within society. Societies have gone, since the beginning of civilization, have gone through great lengths to find ways to control and limit outliers because they are very disruptive to society. The ancient Greeks, for example, looked at babies that they thought may have certain traits that would be disruptive to society, and they would throw them over the cliff. That is how they dealt, or I shouldn't say all the Greeks, but at least the Spartans and the Arcadians did this. And feminists are that type of outlier. However, we do not have a way to determine if a person would be a feminist. So what they did, at least in American society, was they just set aside miscellaneous jobs for these. Feminists normally come in several different varieties. The closeted lesbians is one of them, because a patriarchy would be very hostile to a lesbian. To be in any system where you're forced to sleep with something that you do not desire is so awful. It would be the equivalent to a man who seeks protection in prison. So I get why they would be hostile, while someone in that position would be hostile towards the patriarchy. Also, an extraordinarily unattractive woman would seek comfort in, or will find a patriarchy not really to their advantage. Because if the men were to go to war and there was a slight deviance between the number of available men and the number of available women, she will most likely be a baroness, which is not a good thing in a patriarchy. So there are always going to be these type of women, however, or these type of females. However, what's happened is in modern society, a lot of the natural submissive women are submitting to these women. There are to these feminists. For example, Alice Walker. Instead of submitting to a man, they will submit to the likes or the teachings of someone like Alice Walker because they're insecure and they feel that a man cannot provide them with the security that they need. Even though he can provide them with a relationship, it's fleeting and they could wind up as baroness at any time.
Right.
Am I talking too much, or?
Oh no, you got it. You good. No, I'd rather you go on and on. It's cool. It's all good. Why you think black men have been so slow to even? Why do you think we've been so slow to realize this? Because I mean, I'm talking about myself here. Honestly, I was very slow to realize it. And when I realized it made a huge difference. So I mean, what's the deal with that? Why are black men late to the party even realizing all of this?
Because the other way is more fun for us than any other group of men. Unfortunately,
Explain that.
okay, sure. So very few people, very few groups of men, in fact, Black is really the only one I know, is sexually valued in the way that men value women. Um, yeah. In fact, I can't think of any other. Meaning that no other man is viewed as a sexual object on a base level, than Black men. In order to be sexually valued, other groups of men have to bring something to the table. So the entire concept, let's just say to an Oriental person, of being an F-boy without any merit at all is completely ridiculous. However, it's very feasible for a Black man to come up with this notion. That being the case, the reverse gender role can be a good idea, but it's not really a feasible idea, let's just say, for, once again, an Oriental person or an Indian person to say, I am going to live off of my BAC. I am going to use my game and charisma so much that that she'll give me the keys to her car, and this situation will be a indefinite lasting one. That concept doesn't even enter the brain of other groups of men because they're not sexualized in the way that they are, in the way that we are. Excuse me.
I hear you on that, but a part of me do feel like it's a relatively small percentage of men, of Black men, who can really get down like that. Like I think most Black men can't. Like, would you agree with that? Most Black men just can't live off testosterone oozing out of their pores, so they just getting what they want from women like that. Or what do you think on that?
They can't now. There was a time that they could, and it was commonly understood that the majority could. That on various different levels, you had, of course, the pimps, who would be considered like the wealthy class of that, and then on a lower level, you have just some guy who is living off of a woman's welfare because he's bow-legged. So there was a time,
oh man,
yeah. Oh no, go for it.
Go ahead. No, I was reminded of that old 80s documentary that you pulled up where a chick literally said that she more or less said she got pregnant by him because he was bow-legged. But anyway,
exactly. Yeah. So I mean, you can understand, like, at least in that time, it was feasible that any man, no matter how absent merit he is, can get by if he has a single feature that some chick finds attractive. Like it was reasonable to assume that, at least at that time. And then women started to say, oh wait, WTF? I mean, that's because that's their nature coming out, and and now the bar is set much, much higher. But there was a time where that was acceptable, and that's why I'm so hard on the boomers, because they kind of ushered in that time.
Yeah, let's talk about that, because I touch on that a lot. I think that's pretty much well accepted dogma in the Black manosphere, that it was that generation coming out of the 60s that more or less has us more or less in the post-apocalyptic aftermath of what I consider to be the first generation of hookup culture, the first generation of getting a hot girl summer on and all of this, the first generation of the F boys are winning. I think that was the first generation of that. I remember you did a stream on that a long time ago where you was talking about the free love, man, and all of that. How that was like that first generation of everything going amok, and the end result of that was ultimately a lack of families. The end result of that was those the bow-legged boy in the 80s who was going around serial impregnating women. The end result of that was the crack boom in the 80s. You know, all of that was that we go back to there. That's ground zero of the black community going bad.
Right.
Ultimately, what's your overall, analysis of what was it specifically that led that to just everything to hit the fan there? And the tougher part of the question is, how does it get fixed?
Well, I mean, so it was the generation that thought, and I'm not saying that they were right or wrong in the thinking of it at the time, because it was unprecedented, their idea, and they were young. But they were the generation that thought that because I came from a generation that had a very positive cultural and social shift, read the civil rights movement, that I should have a movement of my own. And shifting is good. Basically, going against the social norm is good. And since the civil rights movement actually went against a just social norm, they were right to do that in the civil rights movement. They were looking for their own fight. And it turns out that they picked the wrong fight and won. Like, it was the wrong fight to win. Because essentially what they were doing was they were fighting their own family structure. Mm-hmm. And, they weren't doing it for the same reason that, my grandfather and beyond, got the German Shepherd in the hose or in the fire hose. They weren't doing it for that reason. They were, which was just to have an equal chance to dump people's garbage. They weren't doing it for a noble cause. They were doing it so they can have their cake and eat it too. Sex without responsibility or accountability, free love, man, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. They were just doing it so they can have the pleasures of the world without contributing to it. It seems like a good idea. And once again, that they were very young, so it's forgiven. What's not forgivable is the lack of understanding that this was a mistake, and let's move forward in correcting our mistake, because unfortunately they're still alive. And instead of her saying, okay, I made a mistake, they tend to have this air of infallibility, like I never did anything wrong, so let's continue to do the wrong thing. And that's why even to this day, you have men in their 60s talking about, player this and blah, blah this and, and bitch broke and all that crap. It's like, dude, this is what destroys society, and you're continuing to perpetuate it. You might as well try to sell me crack. Like, again, there's no push. There's no push to a better solution. There's no working with the subsequent generations for a better solution.
So say there's no working with the subsequent generation for a better solution, but overall, like going back to the tougher question in it, how do we fix this problem? How does we fix it? I know it's a lot of people who just stubborn as hell with it. Like you said, they stubborn. They don't want to admit that it was a mistake. They don't want to admit that it was wrong. They don't want to fully admit that the decisions that generation made ultimately led to the breakdown in the family structure. And we're seeing it even further. We're seeing it now really branching out to white people too. They're all of their marriage rates are going down. Some perhaps for good reason in some cases, with the way things are. Men quite often don't win in those situations. So perhaps for a good reason to some degree, but we can see the outcomes of children who grow up in this post-apocalyptic aftermath. So how does that situation ultimately get fixed? I know that's a big question. I know there's not one linear answer, so take as long as you need. I'm picking your brain right now. How does that problem get fixed? The problem of the lack of healthy relationships, the lack of families, and we see the outcomes of kids growing up in that situation. We know the prison rates, the rate that these kids go to prison, the rate that everything shits the fan, the illiteracy, the literacy rate, the high school graduation rate. We know all the rates when it comes to kids that are born in these situations, and we know all the rates are bad. Mm-hmm. So how the hell does any of that get fixed? Take as long as you need.
Well, it starts with the pick-me. It really does. It starts with the pick-me. She must be championed. She must be idolized. She must be the template on which other women build themselves upon. It must be clear to lesser women that in order to become on this status, that you must follow her example.
Wait, hold on. Define lesser women. You said it must be clear to lesser women. Explain that.
A lesser woman would be a non-pick-me. For example, let's take Jenny Ma, for example. She is a pick-me. By every definition, she's submissive and she maintains a physical appearance that's appealing, extraordinarily appealing, especially for her age. So, and this is something that she has done throughout her life. This is also something that was given to her, a gift that was given to her from mother to daughter that wasn't necessarily given to Lonnie Love. Lonnie Love in this particular scenario and every other scenario is the lesser woman. And no matter what,
except when it comes to weight, she's not.
Yeah, exactly. She's a grander woman in that sense. But that's like, that's like having, that's like a student saying, actually, I have the most wrong answers on the test, therefore I'm a better student. It doesn't, you're not measuring the bad. But yeah, she's not lesser than Lonnie Love in that case. But no, in that way. However, she is the lesser woman, and as such, we have to make it clear that it is prudent of her to use Jenny Ma as a template of a better woman. And we as men should champion this type of woman more than we have in order for the lesser women to follow suit. So right now we live in a society where lesser women do not understand their place. Their place is beneath her. She's not like the type of woman. Okay. Lonnie Love, if this was a functioning society and she did understand her place, then she would not even purchase her own Birkin bag. She would basically hold the designer bags for Jenny Ma. She would be a servant of hers. She would be the person whose back Jenny Ma's kids ride to school on. Like, she's not, that's just her place. And in order to get out of this, position in life, you must increase yourself, increase your value as a woman. And the way to do that is to become a pick-me. Determine what men want and give it to worthy men as they deserve. Period. Once that happens, then we would have flipped the social hierarchy. Women will become of greater value, and men would have to become of greater value themselves in order to compete for such women.
Got you. Counselor Murray in the building with the super chat. He says GC is on target. Thank you very much for the super chat. Excuse me. Also, Corner Store Podcast in the building says peace, folks. I think he says peace, folks, or bros. I don't know if I think you got that wrong. I don't think you say bros, but I know what you're talking about. Hit the goddamn like button. Thank you for the super chat. I appreciate that. That was my best X impression. He sounds like Ronaldo Ray. I don't quite nail it when I do my impression of X, but yeah, I did do the best I can. Do the best I can. All right, now, that lesser woman. Okay, she loses weight. She becomes a pick-me. And she does all of that. Let's take like the Lonnie Love types. They lose weight, they become pick-me's, they do all of that. They even teach their daughters the ways of the pick-me. They do all of that. But them, the Lonnie Loves and their daughters, when you compare Jenny Mai, they still dark-skinned it, and they don't got the features that men want. They don't got the natural long flowing hair going down their back. So none of that ain't none of that is not even going to even matter. That's their counter argument.
And that is their counter argument. And that's why they think it's futile. They think that nothing they do will ever get them to the status of Birkin. and that's because that there is just something inside men that leads us to be attracted to these particular features. And there is, you see, once a group of men see submission in a particular feature in a higher concentrations, they're going to go for that feature, no matter what it is. Just like if every woman who wears, a yellow ribbon in her hair gives awesome dome, men are going to go out seeking yellow ribbons in hair. So yes, if women who are submissive just so happens to come in higher concentration in the yellow persuasion, then men are going to be attracted to that. Or the straighter hair, men are going to be attracted to that. You must understand that, no matter how nappy your hair is, it looks good when you're getting me a sandwich with it. No matter how dark your skin is, it's good when it looks good when you are getting me a sandwich in the skin. See, it's not a matter of these things. I know the belief system is that, if y'all did these things, if y'all submitted, we would be hostile to y'all as if you didn't. Well, try it and then see.
Well,
I want y'all to
go ahead.
No, I want y'all to see how hostile are we to Amara La Negra. Like how hostile are we? And we need more examples, but how hostile are we to dark-skinned submissive women? Not very. In fact, not at all. Submissive women, no matter what form, and I'm not going to say what shape because overweight women are not women and therefore don't deserve our love or respect. But I will say, no matter what hue, no matter what color, a submissive woman is more valuable, which means she's better than a non-submissive woman because she's more woman. Submission to men is part of the definition of femininity. Therefore, she is more female and more woman than you are. Just like Mike Tyson is more man than I am. And there's a bunch of Navy SEALs who are more man than I am. Like there's a hierarchy of masculinity and there's a hierarchy of femininity. And, the Lonnie Loves of the world is at the bottom.
Well, what do you think about black women's current strategy? Just do whatever the hell that they want to do. And then when they're over 40 and past their prime, just find a simp. And when I said that, I did not mean to have Sister George's face right there when I said that. That statement had nothing to do with her. All right. What do you think about the current strategy?
Well, the current strategy would work if they wanted simps. See, that's the thing. That's the thing. It goes, what they're doing now is going against their nature, and when they made up this strategy, they didn't realize how turned off by simps they were. So now that they've come to this realization, they're like, oh crap, I actually don't like simps. Kevin, how do I get a high value man? I'm 40 and I'm with a simp now. What do I do? And he'll say something like, you get a DeLorean, take your fat ass back to 24 and hop in the gym. Like ladies, you don't like simps. If you did, then you're in the right place, but and you would be happy. But the complaints that y'all have is an indication that y'all don't like simps. And the simps know it. The simps like, something, I've been simping for quite some time, and when am I going to get laid? It's like, never, because they don't like simps. You are broccoli. Your penis is broccoli to a 4-year-old. It's liver. It is vegetables. It's the stuff that they don't want. It is a Mounds bar in Halloween. It's the last candy. What's that candy that's like triangle shape and it's yellow?
Candy corn.
Your penis is candy corn. It's the least desired stuff to women. And y'all think I'm somewhere. Sister, oh my sister, they don't respect you. Like you go to these simp events and it's just a bunch of single dudes waiting their turn, for the women that I don't want.
All right. Sister George, I legit want an invitation to the wedding, and I'm getting y'all an amazing gift. I mean that's not even a joke. I'm gonna get y'all a really nice gift, and I want an invitation. Even if it's all the way in, I don't know where the hell you live. or what planet you live on. All right. So they don't want the simps, but it do seem to be it do seem to be a thing. They want the simp, they end up with the simp, and then they end up in what amounts to a very disrespectful, toxic relationship. That's how we're that data that nobody believes, that women are the ones who initiate the violence in the relationship. That my theory, can't prove it. I do believe that's where I do believe where that comes from, where women, they end up with the guy who's ultimately the guy that they need given their situation, but they don't respect them, and there's constant disrespect, and then I can't prove it, but that's where I do believe those stats that show that women initiate the violence in a lot of relationships, that they are lashing out, and they are lashing out at it to the point to where they just hate it. And I'm sure you would agree that lashing out is just their inner need to be dominated coming out. But
Absolutely.
But they conduct themselves for most of their life like they don't want to be dominated. So it's a weird thing. It's almost like black women act like they only wanted to be temporarily dominated sexually. Then after the sex is over, that's it, done. Domination over. I can pull my pants up and walk around like I got a penis too, but I only want to be submissive or in a submissive position when I'm on my back. Like I think that's what a lot of black men are getting from black women, and that's how a lot of black women act. And it's a tall order to reverse that for a lot of them. So yeah, sometimes it seems futile if you even try to break down the genesis of it and how does it change. Sometimes it does seem a bit futile.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, because once again, there is the security factor. There's the security factor, and even though they don't want a simp, they won't turn it away because he's the only person that won't leave. So, it may seem as though, but really they are unhappy in these simp-filled relationships. They don't respect them as men.
Right. But the man who's upright and with a backbone, he ain't going to deal with their ass.
Exactly.
So they end up in a perpetual state where they're getting, for lack of a better way to describe it, they're getting alpha dick, and that's it. And they only getting relationships from weak men. So that's how they develop the notion that all the black men are just weak, or they only good for one thing, and that's sex. That's how they develop that whole little paradigm, that whole little thought process, I should say.
Mm-hmm. Exactly. And they want to believe that because that's all that they have provided them. That's all that they provided them with is sex and security that comes from they are the source of his sexual gratification. So, but really they know that there is a world beyond that, and this world is only available to the pygmies. And by pygmies I mean better women. These are better women than you if you're not a pygmy. Like Danica is a better woman than, let's say, Janae. Pygmies are better women, and therefore they get a certain level of quality of life that simply is not available to the rank and file women who don't submit, who is unworthy of submission.
Mm-hmm. What do you think about the claim that women always say, "Oh, I'll submit if I find a man worthy of submission," as if they're just walking around grabbing their nuts all day, but femininity and submission in their back pocket. They just waiting to pull it out like a trump card, like the big joker to slap on the table. They just holding it back. So what do you think about the argument? Oh, I'll submit to the right man that's worthy of submission. What do you think about that?
Well, they're basically just trying to say that collectively men are not worthy of submission, and she's not ready is basically what I think about that, because what she's doing is she is, how can I say, she's trying to put the blame back on the men. But even if a man is not, say, your lover, or you're not in a relationship of any type, there is a certain way that you treat a man, period. There is a certain, just like for a kid, there's a certain way that you treat an adult, even though that adult is not your parent.
Right on.
So, you don't actually have to submit to an individual person as if he was your lover or if he was the person that you chose to be with. However, your behavior will indicate if you are a submissive woman outside of the relationship.
Right on. Shout out to Ike. I'm not going to try to pronounce your last name, but definitely shout out to you. Been making your rounds in this space. We all know you from Kevin Samuels' channel. We saw you on O'Shea, Ramil. You've been making the rounds. I definitely was planning on I was trying to track down your email. I wanted to send you an email for a one-on-one myself. So yeah, glad to see you in here. Glad to see you in here. Welcome aboard. Welcome aboard. We are closing in on, let's see. Yeah, we had to tell end of this thing. We're getting closer to the end of it. Y'all can drop some questions in the chat. We're not doing a big open panel today. We're not doing that today because this is going to be a shorter one. It's definitely going to be a shorter one. Last 10 minutes or so, we're going to be here. Laro in the building with a super chat. Appreciate you. He said, Bernard, do you feel like cringe? I gotta really stop being like Ron Burgundy and just reading whatever is on the screen. Because that was some bullshit, Laro. That's some bullshit, okay? That's some bullshit. Damn it. That was some bullshit. You got me. You got me. Because I'd be like Ron Burgundy. I just click on it and don't just read whatever's on the screen. Laro, I give you free reign to talk shit, but have some decency, man. Have some decency.
Kendra Joyce said the only solution is to leave Black women alone. If you do that, then you will create a scenario to where no matter what they do, it's not going to be enough. Which means that even if they do submit, they will still find themselves subjugated, or still find themselves as less pussy valued than every other group of women. I want to make it clear to all Black women, get me a sandwich and don't be fat as hell. And, there is a penis at the end of the rainbow for you. I do want to make that clear to the Black women. And I'm not talking about simps. Simps don't have penises. I'm talking about, a decent man. And I'm not talking about these 350K dudes. You will find a decent man worthy of submission once you make yourself a worthy submissive mate.
Mm-hmm. It's interesting because, people always say, oh, a simp is just the, just a female version of the pick-me. So simp is bad, pick-me is good.
Well, the thing is that because pick-me is feminine, there isn't really like a male version of a feminine thing. You see where I'm going with that, right? So, like, that's kind of like saying, oh, I am the male version of, I don't know, a prostitute, or, I'm the male version of a housewife or something like that. Well, these are feminine things. So, if you're the male version of that, you're still the feminine situation, you're still the feminine of the situation.
Right on. I'm looking at the chat. Yeah, Maxine Waters, the best. Maxine Waters, the best of the living dead. Yeah, somebody was saying she looked like Darth Sidious. That was pretty interesting. That was Judge Zilla. Yeah, let's talk about. I want to hear you. Excuse me. That wasn't Corona. I just choked on my spit. Be cool. Charles Merchant in the building. What's going on? He said, stop fooling yourselves. If a man cannot own a woman, there is no submission. She can only fiend or act submissive for a time or until her mask falls off. Well, if Absolutely. That's true, you agree with that?
Oh, no. Well, I'm not saying that there don't exist submissive women, but there are a lot of fakers out there, and time will tell. Their mask always falls off because, a woman who bought into the social propaganda that submission is bad, it's the ultimate evil that a woman could do. She can't go against that for a long period of time, no matter no matter how high value the man is.
Yeah, that was one thing I said, and somebody was talking about there's been some discussion. Well, Kevin Samuels talks about that a lot, how long it take a man to know that that he wants to marry a woman, and he gets pushback from brothers on that one, and I agree with the pushback, even though I understand his arguments and the internal logic within. When you look at what he would, a high value man, even though I don't talk about that too much on my channel, but when you look at a high value man and how he says, 5 years, that man needs to be getting his high value on, so to speak. The reason for that, because he could just have had a good year, could have just had a come up, but he's not going to sustain it. Mm-hmm. That's why a man dealing with a woman for a period of time is important. That's the argument for a man not rushing into marriage because of what he's saying right there, because the mask is always going to fall off. Just like a man has to, show that he's has the merit for a particular period of time. She needs to show that she is feminine and submissive for a particular period of time. So that's where I'm at on that. I do agree that it takes time, but I thought he was saying that. Well, no, I think he was saying, let me make sure I read it right. He said, stop fooling yourselves. If a man cannot own a woman, which a man can't own a woman, mm-hmm. then he's basically saying she can only act submissive for a period of time. So by men not being able to own women, they're just going to act submissive, which means he's essentially saying that if we can't own them, then they can't be submissive. So then no woman can be submissive. She's just going to act it.
Right. She would have to completely...
Go ahead.
Well, she would have to completely submit to his authority in order for her to do that, and agree to accepting negative reinforcement up to and including corporal punishment from her mate.
Say that again.
She would have to be willing to relinquish all of the authority that society has given her, allow him to inflict negative reinforcement up to and including corporal punishment.
Okay, let's talk about that corporal punishment.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, bus driver uppercuts, body blows to the ribs, or just like a little smack on the wrist, like what you're talking about?
No, I mean, even when such things was commonplace, it wasn't it wasn't brutal. It most certainly wasn't brutal. In fact, it was more psychological than it was physical. Like just the thought that you have upset your mate, the dominant figure in this way was enough. Sister George, domestic discipline, exactly. Just knowing that you are being spanked as a result of something that you did, that you have driven the dominant figure to this pass is enough. It's really more psychological, than it is physical.
Yeah, I definitely support the practice that you should put your woman over your knee and like have her lay over your knee and then spank her on the butt when she's been misbehaving.
Absolutely. And there is something in women that doesn't necessarily exist in men in large numbers that react to that, not necessarily the physical pain of it, but the psychological effect of being in that position.
And some of them like it. Some of them like it.
Some of them like it. And you got to be careful of those because they engage in provocative behavior in order to get that response from you. And that can get frustrating. I don't know if you've ever been in a relationship like that where she's it's a constant shit test, and because she wants that type of negative reinforcement. I don't stay away from it, because they are the ones who are most willing to relinquish their control. But masochistic females do come with their own set of problems.
Yeah, like that type of stuff can be good if it's like more or less an understood game that you play, kind of. There's a serious aspect of it that you were talking about, where you said some type of corporal punishment, or as Sister George said, well, I think she wholesale lifted that line from Angry Man, that domestic discipline that was in the Angry Man standard, and everybody lost their shit when he said, domestic. He had a domestic discipline in one of the standards in the Angry Man standard, but where it goes wrong is when a black woman, when a black woman she's just being an argumentative, combative, bitchy, disrespectful woman for the sole purpose of trying to elicit a response out of you, and it's done randomly in the most destructive way possible, to where now we just in a dysfunctional relationship.
Exactly.
This isn't even fun pre-sex banter. You pissing me off, woman. Like that's when it gets to the point where something is seriously wrong there. So yeah, that I do agree with that, and I think that's what a lot of black women do. I had a guy actually come on my show, and he said, if a woman ain't giving you a hard time, if she ain't bothering you, if she ain't doing this, basically, long story short, I know he's going to deny it if he's listening, but he basically said, if she ain't being an outright bitch, she must don't love you or care about you, because that's how you know that she really cares about you. And the whole thing about that shit test, it's okay if she get out of pocket and you check her good and then she flies straight for a long period of time. But if you got to check her on Monday and then she gonna be back out of pocket on Wednesday, and y'all just constantly going back and forth with a damn near a daily tug of war, then no, that's just outright dysfunction. But if done correctly, yeah, it can add something. It can add something to a relationship. If done.
Yeah, there has to be balance, because these are modern relationships. I mean, you don't want it too bad to where she wants to be the one who is given the discipline, and you don't want a woman who is chronically seeking discipline, because quite honestly, women don't have an ability to change, so she'll never stop. I mean, I'm pretty sure you've been in a situation where a woman will start an argument right before you have to go to work, and they don't care that you have to go to work. They need either, discipline or whatever right now. And then, you have the women who instantly look down upon you, because I was with a submissive who used to wash my car, and that was part of her fetish, doing things like that, doing miscellaneous chores like that was part of what turned her on. Now, it became a problem for me to function in real life, because I chronically had to find things to do once the house was clean and the sandwiches were made. It's like, what is there to do? So I would have to hide the remote control and have her find it, but pretend as if, no, honestly, I actually have to do it.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah. And pretend as if, like, hey, I can't find the remote, I need you to find it, just so she can feel valued in the relationship. I don't know if I told this story anywhere before, but I had, so for those of you who don't know, ice cream sandwiches come in either vanilla or Neapolitan, chocolate, strawberry, and vanilla. Now, I wanted a chocolate ice cream sandwich, so I would have her meticulously separate the sandwich bread and scrape off the vanilla and strawberry, and then put the chocolate in to make it a full chocolate ice cream sandwich. Now, so the process, if you had a 10-pack of ice cream sandwiches, then you would just wind up with 3 pure chocolate ice cream sandwiches. So you have to do stuff, and it becomes a bother. You're constantly thinking up crap like that for her to do, and she's constantly testing you. Like she would like leave a tire dirty or something and say, "See, you didn't even see that," and she's constantly questioning your dominance. Those type of relationships are almost as problematic as the ones where women just refuse to submit at all.
Did you? Now, what if she very meticulously took all the vanilla off of the ice cream sandwich, put chocolate on there. But I reckon it was hard to do it perfectly. So what did you not accept it if she left some
No,
like a little bit of vanilla on there? I don't go do
no,
it right.
I did. I threw it on the wall. Like the first couple.
You threw it on the wall. That's what I was.
Yeah, I threw it on the wall because that is frustrating because and it wasn't just like a little bit. I know what you're talking about, like the little bit that's between the thing. It wasn't like that. It was like the whole underlying of the bread, or yeah, I call it the bread, but that cookie. The whole thing was vanilla on top, and it melted into the regular chocolate. So yeah, I threw it at the wall. So eventually, what she did was, she just she got it right, and then afterwards, and I didn't even ask her to do this. She took the butter knife and she smoothed it in, so it wasn't just 3 lumps or 3 chocolate squares. It was one continuous chocolate in the middle. So she actually became very good at that.
Okay, I gotta ask, have you seen the movie Secretary?
Yes, I have. So perfect example. Perfect example of what I'm talking about. Imagine somebody like that. Now, in the movie, it may seem erotic, but that's actually neurotic. It's a lot more work than a regular working person would have to do. It is.
Yeah, for those who haven't seen the movie Secretary, it came out in the late 90s. It was a girl, a woman in the movie. I'll be careful here. The woman in the movie, she used to cut herself. She was a cutter. And she was working for a lawyer. She was a secretary. He had her working on like an old school typewriter. And when she used to make a mistake when she was typing, she had make a typo, he would like yell at her, and then she would, feel bad and then go and cut herself. Because that's what people who got that problem where they cut themselves do, because they have their emotionally imbalanced, and the pain that they don't feel nothing, but the pain they supposed to be feeling on the inside, that they cut themselves when they're upset so they can feel something. It's a weird thing. So that's what she ultimately used to do. He saw her doing that. So the next time she made a mistake, he yelled at her. She went to cut herself. He said no. He got her, bent her over his desk, pulled her pants up, and just spanked the shit out of her. And she liked it. And that's how she overcame her little problem of cutting herself. She just had him around to spank her when she wanted to cut herself. It was a weird ass movie. And the guy name in the movie, his name was Gray. She called him Mr. Gray. And the 50 Shades of Grey movie basically ripped that and just did it at a larger scale with a bigger budget. But that's my personal thing. The 50 Shades of Grey.
Oh no, that's a farce. That's for one. 50 Shades of Grey is BS. I didn't read the book, but the movie it was BS if I ever seen it, or understood what BS was. But the secretary, notice how she started deliberately doing stuff wrong.
Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, she started making typos on purpose. Absolutely.
Exactly. And that's where it becomes problematic. That's the perfect movie to give you an example of what I'm talking about. That's when it becomes problematic, because they do that. And he actually need this work done. This isn't, this is not playtime. It was cute, the couple spankings and stuff, but, this is serious, but she doesn't care. And that's when it becomes problematic in real relationships, not movie ones. And I'm not talking about extreme BDSM. That's, it's obvious that that's what they were into with people cutting themselves. I'm talking about women who just need to feel dominated, and, they would mess up on purpose just for that feeling. And it's like, listen, this is something that's important. I really need this in real life. Like I'm going on an interview. I really need my shirt ironed, in that case. And, and don't half iron it just so you can get disciplined, because disciplining you would make me late to work and with a half iron shirt. So let's not. Playtime is over. So yeah, it can be as problematic as a regular one.
Yeah. Gabe A with the super chat, appreciate you. He says ice cream sandwiches have something to do with why do black men talk about submission? Yes, we want ice cream sandwiches. God damn it! But no, yeah, I'm missing the connection here. LOL. These conversations go all over the place. I think we dotted all the I's and crossed all the T's on the main part of the conversation. Rewind it to the beginning and check it out if you're coming in late. This last 10 minutes of the conversation has pretty much been fun. But it turned into a conversation about the sexual submission by somebody who likes to be submissive, and in a sexual banter type of way. You know, that was a whole nother thing from the main topic of submission, but they can be connected. But it was generally a different thing when talking about the overall social dynamics or interpersonal relationships between black men and black women. Don't miss the point on purpose, Gabe. Hey, you always do that coming here, missing the point on purpose, trying to make it seem like we just talking crazy. Anyway.
Well, I mean, so if you look at the movie Secretary, which is a great example. I actually forgot it. You're right. That is a very old movie, and I forgot about it. But that's a perfect example of it. And let's not take her at that extreme, but let's just take any woman on that side of the spectrum, because she would be considered more feminine than, as I define femininity, than most. But any woman who's anywhere along that side of the spectrum, could she find any comfort or happiness with a simp?
Good question. Nah, probably not.
And
she would go crazy, because he wouldn't give her nothing to do. He wouldn't tell her anything to do. He would just be constantly sitting there trying to figure out what he could do to make her happy. How he
exactly could, in the relationship. Go for it.
Oh yeah, but no. I was listening. Well, basically, what I was going to say, he would be waiting on instruction instead of the other way around.
Exactly. And it would literally drive her crazy, and it would drive him crazy, because she would be constantly degrading him, looking for his breaking point, hoping to find the testosterone-driven reaction that never comes. So these relationships often don't work, and that's, hence the failed marriage rate, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera.
Mm-hmm.
So it's a disruptive dynamic, that's for certain.
Right on. Yeah, this got kind of interesting. I'm almost mad that we're not opening it up doing a full show. But I got to roll up out of here. We had the hour 15-minute mark. Cortez says Gabe A is a troll. Yeah, he do be trolling. But man, hey, thanks, man. thanks. I appreciate you coming on through. Hopefully we got it. Well, how long you gonna be in the DR?
I don't know yet. I may head back. I'll be back by Thanksgiving, but I don't know.
You're gonna be there a while then. In other words, a few weeks.
Well, I don't know when I'm heading back. I didn't buy a return ticket yet, so just whenever I get tired, I guess I'll head back.
All right. I know Zone has been dropping your link in the chat for the few people out there that ain't subscribed to Game Changer. I know most people here got to be subscribed to Game Changer, but no, I like to get you in sometime during my normal morning show schedule. I would like to actually do that, but it is the only time we'll be able to do it is if you're somewhere like the DR. So I don't know if you're down there for a while. Yeah, I might hit you up to see if you're up for doing something like this again, because this definitely got interesting.
Oh.
But
yeah, absolutely. I mean, this is the perfect time for us to do a morning show, because 6 a.m. for me, that's
Yeah, that's crazy.
Yeah,
I wouldn't expect you to do that. Only a few people. I think BGS and BGS, I think, was the only person that got up at 6 a.m. to do a 9 a.m. East Coast show. I think he's the only one that did it. I don't expect people to do that. But
I'll do a 10. I could do a 10 with you, since I'm out here.
Yeah, cool. So yeah, we probably get something going on next week. Shout out to Complex. I see you in the building. Drop Game Changer link in there one last time. There you go. You got it right there. Cool. Make sure you're sub to Game Changer if you're not sub to him already. And I'm about to roll out, get up out of here. Once again, thanks GC. Thanks everybody who super chatted. Hit the like button. Everybody, if I picked up any new subscribers, I appreciate you. And we are up out of here. Peace.